yeah, you want to give a better life to your kids than what you had. But is that hurting them? Because now all of a sudden they don't get to experience some of those things that might actually, yeah, it's not like you don't want them to, but you also want them to grow from real life experiences. And so I do think that that's tricky. But that's also why I try to be very open with, my experience with my dad and what happened, so that even if they didn't experience, they know that I did. Someone close to them did. They never got to meet their grandpa because he died before they were born. And we talk a lot about that. They ask a lot about that. So I'm hoping that maybe that helps a little bit.
Welcome to Burning the Ships podcast, and I'm your host, Jason Seward, and today I'm sitting down with Miss Sandra Arnold, and we'll get into her introduction here shortly, but before we do that, let me kick it off with JJ's Joke of the Week. Take it away, JJ.
What did one plate say to the other plate? Lunch is on me.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Another good joke. So, Sandra, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yep, coming from the big city of Richmond, Virginia, by way of Sweden. So we're going to get into that story. I'm just learning, and I'll tell people if you've listened to episodes in the past, but my favorite episodes are the ones where I get to sit down and I don't know your story. Like I literally, you and I connected through social media and through Brandon Lindsay's group, the Rehab's Playbook. But when I get folks on here, I knew that I wanted to talk to you. I knew you had some good stuff going on in real estate. So that, that connected us. And I know there's a lot more to the story, but just in our little conversation offline before we started, I've got enough here that we could talk for 3 hours on several topics. We won't do that, but with that, the way I usually kick it off, Sandra, is I just turn it over to the guest and let you introduce yourself. So go ahead and do that. Take it wherever you want, and then we will have a great conversation behind that.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Sandra Arnold. I am 46 years old. I have 3 kids. My husband Crane and I live in Glen Allen. I'm from Sweden, so I came over to the U.S. the first time in 1999 to go to school. Went to George Mason University, and I studied accounting there. And I finished my bachelor's, and then I started working at one of the big 4 companies, and then decided to move back home to Sweden, and that's when I met Crane. So we did a little bit of a long-distance relationship for like about 10 months, and then he proposed, and right as we were about to have our wedding, he got deployed. So we postponed our plans a little bit. Well, we actually did go to the courthouse and get married. So we were married, but we
You made it official, but
so he was gone for a year, our first year of being married, and when he came back, we had our big wedding in Sweden. So and then we came back to the U.S., but to Northern Virginia. Lived in Reston so we came back 2008, and we lived there until 2014. We had our first child 2010, and our second one 2013. And then 2014, we moved back to Sweden, and we're there for 6 years. So
gotcha.
Some back and forth, but now we're back here in the Richmond area, and we're really, really liking this area. I don't want to go back to Northern Virginia.
Yeah, I understand that. I like visiting there. I took my son there to a baseball game. It's probably been 3 weeks ago, and I like it in small doses. But So interesting. So I want to get back to your first. So why? Take us back to, you said you finished high school and then you came here to go to college. What inspired that decision and move? I mean, obviously, it sounds like you had lived in Sweden your entire life up to that point.
Yeah. And
had you traveled to the U.S. prior, or?
No, I'd never been here. I just knew from a young age that I wanted to get away from there. Go somewhere else. I didn't know that it was going to be the U.S. I just knew I had to leave.
Yep, I understand.
And I had also, from a very young age, decided that I needed to get good grades. I needed to get a job where I could make money because I didn't want to, I basically wanted to change my life from where I came from, pretty much.
Yeah. That's rare to not just recognize it at a young age, but actually to take the action and have the discipline I mean, obviously you acted on that, so you obviously had to make the grades and to allow yourself to do it. Where do you think that motivation came from?
I don't know. I think
We're getting deep right in the beginning. I'm sorry.
I mean, my dad growing up, I mean, I loved him so much. He was awesome in many ways, but he was a drug addict.
Mhm.
So I saw and I grew up with a lot of that, in and out of rehab, and it was not a great environment for kids to grow up in. And I don't know, I just decided that this is not going to be me. And the only way I could see out was you have to get good grades. You have to get good grades so that you can go to school and get a good job and, never have this kind of situation for your future kids. Um, I don't know. That was just, I had decided and I just kept going. Like nothing was going to stop me. And so, I applied to come over here to the US. I got in and I worked several different jobs to try to pay for it all myself. And I have student loans that I will probably never pay off, but worth it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I had decided. And, my dad sadly passed away when he was only 48, from that kind of lifestyle. And it's something that I talk with my kids about all the time because I think it's important to be open about it. But it's also like, this is the reality and this is what can happen. And, that's what I went through. And
Yeah.
you just have to work hard. I mean, you don't have to do the same things I did, but you have to work hard and you have to take responsibility for your own life. You can't rely on anyone else. I mean, you can meet a lot of great people, but it's up to you what you do with your life. It's totally up to you.
So Sandra, you probably don't know this, but my father had a drug problem as well, and so I grew up very very similar mindset. Now I will say the grades piece of it, I was not as focused and disciplined on that early on, but I did have from a very early age this mindset of I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to, whatever that is, whatever my dad is doing. A lot of good in me came from him, personality wise and stuff like that. But those behaviors and the situations that he put me, my mom, and my siblings in, I was not going to do that. So that is kind of, I mean, really has led everything like high achieving that I've done has been sparked by that mindset. Just seeing something I didn't want to do, and I've kind of used it as a chip on my shoulder. Like I'm not going to be that, and I'm going to prove everybody that yes, I have his blood, I have some of his personalities, but I'm going to not be that. And it sounds like you had much of the same mindset. So, yeah. And I appreciate you being vulnerable enough to share that because that's not always easy to talk about for me or anybody. So, so you come over here in '99. You go to George Mason. Did you know Brandon played baseball at George Mason? Brandon Lindsay.
No, I did. I did not know that. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure
talked about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was George Mason. Well, I'll have to fact check that, but I know he played somewhere up there. But I'm almost certain it's George Mason. But yeah, he was a pitcher at George Mason.
Oh wow. Okay.
But so how did that experience go? You travel over here. I would imagine you didn't know anybody.
Well, so
right?
I came over here. I came over with a group. It was this 1-year program. So I came with a group of like 40 Swedish students. We lived in apartments over in Alexandria.
Okay.
And we went to, well, at that point, we actually belonged to Shenandoah University for that year. But then when I decided to stay, I, extended my student visa and then moved over to Mason and continued my degree there. So, yeah. And then I don't know, they came to campus and started interviewing us. And I was like, well, there's no no reason for me to move back home to Sweden. So I'm just going to interview and I'm going to start working and,
Yeah.
just keep going.
Follow the path.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I get it. So, but you, at some point, and I was trying to make notes of the timeline here, but I think you said at some point you went back to Sweden, or a couple different times you did.
Yeah, in
But
2006, I had been here then for 7 years, and my friend and I, who I lived with at the time, we had decided that maybe it was time to go back to Sweden. So we started planning for that, and I had transferred with the company to Sweden, so I, could continue working over there.
okay.
And then I met my husband right then, but I still moved because I figured I couldn't stay just because I met someone. I mean, what if it
Yeah.
didn't work out and all that?
Right.
Yeah, so I still moved, and then we just kept traveling back and forth to each other. And then, I mean, it was pretty quickly. It was after like 10 months he proposed, and we decided, okay, I'm going to come back.
Right. So that first, I mean, you said you officially got married at the courthouse and stuff like that, but you had to delay the ceremony for a year. But you also mentioned, kind of like, I guess y'all knew what potentially you were getting into as far as him possibly being deployed. With your first year of marriage, he's gone. How did you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, it was, looking back, it's like kind of crazy that it happened that way, but it actually worked out really great. I mean, I just kept working and saving money, and he was over there, and we talked whenever we could, on Skype, and, wrote letters and just stayed in touch, and then just counted down the days until he was going to come home. And I came over here and, was there when he arrived, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
And that started our life. We bought our first house in Reston, a townhouse, and it was just, everything was perfect. We just started working and lived our lives as married, and
yeah. So then you start having babies and start raising babies, and at some point it sounds like, I think you said 2014 you guys moved back to Sweden. So was there an event or something that sparked that? Was it a career thing? What led to that move again?
I think that was me. After several years, you kind of forget the bad things and you start romanticizing the things that you do remember. And there are a lot of good things about Sweden. Of course, I miss my family, I miss my friends, I miss the food. There's a lot of wonderful things about Sweden, and so I started only thinking about those things. And I thought, okay, I want my kids to grow up there. I want them to have some of my culture and my traditions and my language and everything. So, and Crane was on board. He was like, yeah, sure. I mean, let's do it. If I can transfer with my job, and, then let's just go. So we rented out our house and we moved over there. And, I mean, it was good. It was a good experience. I'm glad we did it because, well, first, now I know I don't want to live there. So that was good. But now I have that confirmed. I don't have to walk around and wonder.
Yeah.
So living in the U.S. and visiting Sweden is definitely, that's how I want to keep it. And it was good because, we did get to have some really good quality time with family and friends when we were there. And the kids are now bilingual, and, they have real memories of specific traditions and things like that is still important to me. So yeah, I'm glad we did it. But
and you were there from 2014
to 2020. So we had decided 2019 was when we started planning to move back. So everything was already set in motion, the transferring the jobs, and we had bought a lot to build on, sight unseen, and started, selling off our things and booking a big container to move the things we were bringing, all that stuff. Everything was ready. And then, of course, what was it, like February or March 2020? March, yeah. Then COVID hit, and we were like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Because it's not like it wasn't in Sweden. It was everywhere.
Right.
So do we stop the move or do we just continue with our plans? And we decided that we might as well continue because everything was already set up. And it was going to be COVID in Sweden too. So we decided. So we decided to move, and honestly, it was the easiest flight. If you've ever flown to and from Dulles Airport, that's a pretty crazy airport normally.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There was no one there.
Right.
It's just us. We just walked right through. I mean, it was so smooth.
Yeah.
So it was the easiest trip I've ever taken.
Yeah.
But,
Well, there were some positives about COVID. So yeah. Yeah. There you go. So, how old were your kids then in 2020 when y'all came back?
So our youngest was 3, and then there's 3 years between them. So 3, 6, and 9.
Whew. Okay.
Yeah.
How did they handle that move back?
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were super excited. They thought it was super fun, and and the only thing that was a challenge was that we had schools never shut down in Sweden. They just kept going just like normal. There was no 6 feet apart. There were no masks, nothing like that. So that was a big change for them, is that they came here and they thought they were going to start school, but then everything was virtual, and it was just a big change. So we thought, okay, well then we might as well homeschool them because they're going to sit in front of a computer and try to follow along a teacher in English, and they had never, all their schooling up until then had always been in Swedish. So even though they spoke English, it's different when you're supposed to sit and listen to someone on a computer for hours in a new language. So, yeah.
So you made the decision to homeschool. At that point, I think I understood you earlier. That's where you stopped your career to be the one, I guess, running the homeschool.
Right. I was supposed to transfer with my company too, and we decided to not do that. And I would just focus on the kids, and and then once everything was over, which none of us knew when that was going to happen, then I could kind of go back or get a new job. But during this time, and actually it started in Sweden, I had already started thinking about real estate investing, and I had found, I think I found BiggerPockets, and I started listening to that podcast. I had started finding things on Instagram. I think one of the first ones I found was Daniel Clayman, and I didn't even realize that he was in Richmond. So later on, when I came over here and I figured out that he was here, I was like, oh my gosh, that famous guy that's where I'm going to live. So, so I had already started, becoming interested in it. And so while I was homeschooling the kids, I decided to also sit for my realtor's license because I didn't really know where to start. And I figured maybe that's a good place to start, to just kind of learn, the basics. And then if I use it as a realtor or not, we'll see. And then I found Ring. I started looking for local meetups because I heard that on the BiggerPockets podcast that look for meetups. So I started looking for that, and I found Ring, Rich Lennon's meetup, and I went over there, and I was just, I came home and I told Crane, oh my gosh, you have to come with me next time. This was the most amazing thing ever. All these people are so nice and helpful, and they're all doing these amazing things. And, so I was just.
You were bit by the bug at that point. Yeah. No, I get it. We all go there. So I want to, we'll get into the real estate in a minute, but I do want to, because you deserve some applause here, because homeschool, like you didn't set out to be a homeschool teacher, right? Like that was not the path you had envisioned. My wife is a teacher. She's a second grade teacher, but homeschooling your own kids is much different. And so when we had to go through that whole year of virtual learning and stuff like that, she's trying to be a teacher to her actual kids, like, or her kids at school virtually, but also help our kids through all of their stuff. And it was, because I'm working from home, we're all at home every day. It was peak stress for us. Like, it was very stressful. So how did you transition into that mode of like facilitating a homeschool program and stuff like that? And are you still doing it?
Yeah, no, I'm not still doing it. I try to, because that's the other thing. Homeschooling is illegal in Sweden, so that's not even a
Mhm.
thing.
Oh, wow.
I had no prior experience with homeschooling. My husband, though, he was homeschooled up until high school, so he had a lot
Okay.
of experience with it. So I found, some resources online and books and things like that, and just started trying to learn about it. And then we worked together and we set up, a curriculum to follow for them, and just try to. I try to be very organized. That kind of fell apart quickly. But I had everything mapped out. And I've never been a teacher. And oh my gosh, do I appreciate teachers now. That is hard and it's a not for me.
Yeah.
I'm all for homeschooling, but I'm not supposed to be the homeschooling teacher.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but like I said, my wife is a teacher and she says the same thing. I cannot homeschool these kids because
It's
they're your kids. It's different and they give you different responses and it's just all every day. The
yeah.
organization piece of it was very difficult for us. We try to convert a room into like a classroom for them and that lasted a week. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have, I know how my style is when it comes to learning. And I try to force that on them.
Yeah.
And that didn't work because they're very different. Of course, the little one was so little, so for her it was just mostly play learning at that point. But
Right.
her middle one was supposed to start reading, and he learned in a very different way. And my older, like they have different personalities and different ways of learning, and then I come there with my way of thinking, and it was so.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, when the schools open next year, I said they're going to school.
yeah, yeah. Well, okay. Well, that I mean, but seriously, that's you deserve some applause for that because a lot of people just I mean, we were in that group too. We just had to grit our way through that period, and in our case, the the private schools in our area opened up much sooner than the public schools. So my wife, she switched jobs to a private school, and we couldn't get our kids back in school fast enough. So now,
Yeah.
they've been in a local private school ever since. But okay, so back you go to that ring meeting, and that lit a fire on the real estate side. And this was also in 2020, or
It
we
must have been 2021,
okay,
early fall 2021.
okay, and you go there. You had the motivation. I think anybody that has been to one of those events for the first time can relate to that feeling. Like it's just, even me, I did a lot of real estate kind of silently when I was working my corporate career, just myself in a bubble, and I never really networked. I never, did any of that. But
Yeah.
when I started leaning into that, I remember that same feeling walking into a room with dozens of people and being a little intimidated. Like I do well in environments like that, but a little intimidated because I didn't speak that language, right? And so I go in there and then how welcoming everybody was. Oh, what do you do? Tell me more. Oh, and you just, next thing you know, you're in the group. You're part of it.
Yeah.
And leaving an event like that, it is peak level motivation. So where did you go with that motivation? What actions did you take behind that?
So the next meeting, I brought my husband. Because I was like, you just need to see this and experience it yourself. So we both went, and he felt the same way. And so then decided that, okay, this is something we want to do. And we had already, like you said, from the first time, we like basically made friends. Like we met all these awesome people, and the next time we showed up, they were like, oh, hey, I mean, it felt like,
Yeah.
yeah, we belonged. It was great. And then I can't remember exactly when it was, but Rich shortly thereafter announced that he was going to start this Ring Elite group that you could join. And we said we're doing it. So we signed up. I think I was the first one who signed up for it. And that I feel like was the first thing that really made like something happen, because we had this, awesome mentor, someone really experienced, teach us things and allowed us to brainstorm just, yeah, ask a bunch of questions in a different setting, a smaller setting. And um, it was
Right.
amazing. And we got to meet some really cool people through him. And he's the one also who started teaching us about private lending and that whole world. And so we did that, and we bought our first duplex. And then a little while after that, a single family home that came with a second lot, and that's the lot that I now finished building on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's been slow. I really thought and hoped from the beginning that we were going to be able to get more deals and just, because you hear and see all these other people and they're doing so much volume, and you start thinking, "Ooh, I want to do that too." You start comparing, and I know you shouldn't, but
Right. You're saying what I was getting ready to say.
right.
Yeah.
In the
Right.
beginning, it's
Yeah.
easy because you see all this and you just want to do it too.
Yep.
And then it was slow. It was very slow, and I was getting very frustrated.
Yeah.
But then it started happening, and now I feel like I'm okay with that because I have so much, I have 3 kids. Like that's my priority. They have activities and I want to be there. I don't want to just be someone who's always working. I want to be part of their, soccer games and their,
Yep.
everything that's going on in their lives. So that's priority. And I feel like I probably can only do one project at a time. I had 2 in the spring this year, and that was a lot. And I felt like, okay, I think one at a time is good for me. That's, I don't need to rush it. It's okay that way. So, yeah.
It's safer too. I mean, it's like you kind of following the timeline there. You probably got most active as you were going into 2022.
Mhm.
Late 2022 is when the interest rates started
Yeah.
climbing. And like I was most active from like 2018 through end of 2022.
Yeah.
It was if you had been here and active in that during that time, you would have had just as much volume as everybody else you were seeing online because it was plenty of deals, rates were low, it was easy to do the burst strategy, buy them, fix them
Yeah.
up, refinance, and that's how we built our portfolio.
Yeah.
If I had to fast forward that and start in 2022 through now, it wouldn't have gone that way. It would we would have had to go slower and been very much because you could miss for there was about a 4 or 5 year period where you could miss pretty big on a deal and still come out ahead. Like it was hard to lose money during
Right.
that time, and it is not that way now.
No.
So
Yeah.
to feel like it's going slow, it's going slow for everybody. Now some people have been able to figure out, strategies to keep up good volume, but still there's all the deals. I mean, we're high volume lenders, so we see a lot of deals.
Mhm.
We don't see many home runs. They're all skinny deals. It's not very little room for error. So I think you're right where you need to be and
Yeah.
going at the pace you need to be. So to
Yeah.
keep it safe. So um you buy that. Let's go back to that duplex. That sounds like the first one. Was that a big rehab or was it
No,
a
it wasn't a
turnkey?
big, well, it probably should have been a big rehab. Uh, we, it was sold to us as turnkey. There were some minor things to fix. So we immediately had tenants in there. And the one tenant on one side is still there. So that one's been going well. The other side, we had to do an eviction. So, that was a good experience. Uh, and then last year we actually we had to replace like the whole like framing underneath. So we probably should have looked at that closer when we bought the house and done that then, or just, negotiate the
Yeah.
price down, that whole thing. Totally inexperience. We didn't really know. And we were so happy that we had found something that
Yep.
we just really wanted to buy it.
Yeah, no, I've been there before. One of my biggest nightmares of a deal came with just being so excited that I had gotten a good deal that I never myself or I never had a contractor or anybody look in the foundation, and
Yeah.
it ended up being an absolute nightmare. So I can relate there.
Yeah.
Um, so you get that the duplex and a single family, which now let's jump into that. So you just completed your first ground up new construction that was an investment property, not one that you lived in, because
Right.
y'all had built a couple homes, primary
Yeah,
residence,
exactly.
right?
We built
Okay.
two primary homes. Yeah.
Okay. So what so new construction, it's an animal that a lot of folks, even seasoned real estate investors, don't dive into. And here you are, like you just completed your first new construction project, which sounds like it's one of your first projects,
Yeah.
yeah. So walk us through that. No, I mean, I got so many questions, but take it like, I mean, I know you had the lot
Mhm.
already with that single family home you
Yeah.
had. Um, what gave you the confidence to think you could dive into a new construction project?
Yeah. So I can't remember when I found Brandon's group. It must have been, I know I was one of the early ones to join that group too. So whenever can it be 3 years ago, maybe? I can't remember, 3 years ago. Um, and so I had gone to his site visits, and it was, new construction site visits. And I just thought, oh, this is so cool. And I mean, he's such a good speaker too. So like
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
listen to him, you just get very inspired and
Right.
motivated. And I knew I had that extra lot. And so I decided I have to do this, but I have to learn. There's a lot to learn, of course. So, but I joined his group and, spent a lot of time just going through all the modules and being in all the meetings and, learning about rehabbing, but not just rehabbing, just like all the details of, I feel like I learned so much from his group, like actual steps, like actionable steps and, what, not just like, oh, the burr, it's, buy, rehab. It's like, yeah, but how do you buy? But how do
Right.
you rehab? How do the actual steps is
Yeah.
what I've learned from his group.
He
Um,
he is, and you're right. You're dead on. I've known Brandon for a couple years now, and just this year, joined the group, and you're exactly right. He breaks it down, and he's a fantastic coach and
yeah,
teacher. I
yeah,
mean, he's fantastic. But you're you just nailed it. Like every everybody throws out these generalities a lot of times in these groups and these programs. Oh, do the burst strategy, do this, but to actually break it down tactically, he does a great job with that. And there needs to be more of that out there,
yes, yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So I mean, so I joined his group, and then I just thought that I can do this, and especially with the help of the group. And then, of course, I talked to him and asked if he would hold my hand through the whole project because I mean, I needed a GC because in Hopewell, you can't pull permits as an owner. I know some other places you can do that, but that wasn't something I was allowed to do. So I had to have someone anyway. And I mean, I just couldn't think of anyone better because then, we could share the whole um, build in the group as well, and
yep,
people can follow along and learn while I'm learning. And just having someone, who knows what they're doing be there every step of the way. And we discussed in the beginning how it was going to be set up, and I said I want to be involved in every single step because I want to learn. I'm not just here to you know outsource building a house. I want to learn how to build a house so that I can keep doing it going forward and get my license and all that. And it's just, yeah, it's been great. And I think that was just, knowing that I had that, it made it so much easier.
yeah,
Otherwise it would have been very scary.
yep, yeah. And you're touching on something that I think it's worth spending a little bit of time on, but the power of, and let me set this up a little bit because I worked in a corporate career for 17 years, same job for 17 years, same company. And everything I did in real estate was, as I mentioned earlier, very quiet. Like I was intentionally trying to not keep it a secret, but I didn't want any conflict with my career.
Yeah.
So throughout that entire time, I I developed this mindset of I can figure it all out on my own, right? I don't need help. I don't need a mentor. I can listen to the podcast, watch YouTube, and I can figure it out and just keep everything pretty quiet. Once I left that job, I completely did a 180. I was like, I'm going to lean in on these networking groups and these masterminds and things like that. But not only that, I'm going to link up with mentors, people that are 10 steps ahead of me, and find out a way that I can add value to them somehow, and hopefully they can hold my hand through things. And what that gave me, and it's leading up to what you just talked about with Brandon, it gave me so much more. I was already confident in what I could do, but it gave me so much more confidence because I knew I had somebody now that I could run these dumb questions that I thought I was having by that wouldn't judge me, right? And so now, since I've leaned in on aligning myself with mentors, whether it's in the lending space or whatever it is, my confidence is through the roof. My results are through the roof. Everything has compounded, and you had the foresight enough to jump right into that, right? So, and you mentioned offline before we started, we were talking about this build, and you said a couple things that you said it was very exciting, so much fun, and like you've gone the whole course of this, and that's what you're saying about it.
Yeah.
I have to imagine you're saying those things because you didn't go at it alone. You aligned yourself with a mentor. You learned it was everything you thought it could be because you have somebody holding your hand. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And the times where something didn't go as planned, and if I had the feeling of like a little bit of panic, and I look at Brandon and he's just super cool, and I was like,
Yep.
oh yeah, this is actually fine. And I just went home and nothing, no big deal. But he hadn't been there with his, well,
Right.
oh my God.
Right. Yeah. And it just, I think the best word with that is just the amount of confidence it gives you. Right. And now you have the confidence, like you'll always be connected with Brandon in
Right.
some way or another,
Yeah.
but you not only just let him hold your hand, but you learned every step of the way. And now if Brandon's not there, you have the confidence to go out, and you know that like there's going to be adversity. There's going to be things that come up, but none of it is stuff that hadn't happened before to other builders, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, there was one time where we thought that the fence post had gotten hammered down into the water line. And to me, I was like, oh my gosh, that is a disaster. I mean, there's going to be water everywhere. And which is like in my head, how can we possibly fix this? We have to dig up the whole house. And he was like, oh, no, it's not a big deal. I mean, just his way of being so calm and like,
Yeah.
it just helped so much. And now, like things are going to happen. Things will happen. But I love Lisa Englehart's little saying there that everything is figure-outable.
Everything is figure outable. It's a great book. If you haven't read it, go. It's a fantastic book. I have it on my daughter's wall in her bedroom. Everything is figure. She's 13, and one of our sayings is, we figure things out. Like as a family, we just figure things out. And but you're right. Everything is figure outable. And I have to imagine, Sandra, you have faced adversity as a child, right? Like you grew up facing adversity, and that had to some degree calibrate your perspective around adversity when it gets into business and real estate. So that I maybe I'm wrong, but I think that has to help. It does for me anyway. Like I can reflect back, like I've been through harder stuff than this. So this leak or this going $10,000 over budget, this is nothing. I've been through hard things,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so you finished that, and you sold the house, right? Or did you hold it as a rental?
No, I kept it. So we really want to try to not sell. We want to try to keep, our rehabs or now new builds, for, long-term wealth building. So that's our goal. My husband is still working his W-2, and hopefully one day he can retire from that. But so we'll just keep building, slowly. But
so I do want to, and I'm glad I asked that because I want to know. So is the vision moving forward more kind of build to rent model? Is that where you're going with it? You think?
That's what I would like to do. Yeah.
How compared to a normal like Burr project. If you're buying it for 100, you're putting 50 into it, refinancing. How do your numbers? I guess it's easier to predict the numbers on new construction because you kind of know all the input costs.
Yeah.
But from a cost to rent, I guess, ratio, how does it pan out? Like, I mean, I guess at the end of this, you refinance it, you got a renter in it, and that's how
Yeah,
you do
so
it, right?
so this one in particular, it costs a little bit more per square foot to build because it's small. This is what I'm learning from Brandon. I
Yeah.
mean, if I had, it's only 1,000 square foot.
Okay.
Even at like 1,400, the cost per square foot would go down some. So it cost almost one like 165, I guess, per square foot, which is kind of high when you compare it to what other builders could do. But I'm still fine with that because I'm well, I'm hoping to get the appraisal back today, but I'm hoping that it will appraise for like 240.
Okay.
So, and we always knew that if we had to leave some money in, we were fine with that
Okay.
because it's still something that we can, um, it's still good for like as a tax write-off and all that stuff towards my husband's W-2 income and everything. So it's still worth it for us. And we knew that we were going to turn it into an Airbnb. So the rent that we get from it is a lot higher than long-term rent.
So you're doing it as a short-term rental. You said in Hopewell?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So
Yeah, sweet.
this is in the historic district of Hopewell. It's called City Point.
Yep.
And there's actually an old historic house just walking distance from my two houses, and the city has been granted like a $1.4 million grant to restore that, and they're going to turn it into an event venue and museum. So they're really trying to invest in that part of the city, and that, when that event venue opens up, I'm also hoping that I will be able to provide
Yep.
lodging for people who come to those events.
That's great.
No, yeah, but I mean, I just started last week was when we officially opened up as a short-term rental, and I already have 6 bookings.
Really?
Yes. So, and I mean, I didn't know in the beginning if it was going to work in Hopewell, but so far so good. So
That's why I'm asking. We own a lot of property in Hopewell, a lot of rental, and they're all long-term rentals. I've sold off a few in the last couple years, but we still have a handful.
yeah,
And I've never, like, we have property in other cities that we have one midterm rental, and we've kind of looked at some short-term stuff, but it's never even been considered for Hopewell. Like I've never even thought of it. And so to hear you say that, and for those that are listening that don't know where Hopewell is, it's just a city in Virginia south of Richmond. So,
yeah.
yeah, but
And I mean, it has some rough areas, and
yep.
I usually when I get a request for a booking, because the first house, the one that I bought that came with this lot, that one is a midterm rental. So, and it's also been going great. I mean, I've had people come for all kinds of different jobs. I thought I was going to have traveling nurses, but I have never had a traveling nurse.
Yeah.
But it's been, construction workers, it's been from the military base, it's been just all kinds of people. So that one already is running well. And then the new one now, I decided to try that more as a short term, not
Right.
midterm. And yeah, like I said, I mean, it's already been, I have several bookings, and I didn't know from the beginning if it was going to work, and it definitely works. So
Well, one thing, like, even if that doesn't work out long term, Hopewell, like, historically, just based off, I mean, we have rentals everywhere.
yeah,
None perform as good as Hopewell.
right.
Like there's never vacancy. I mean, we turn them over quickly if somebody has to move out. The rents are consistent. We haven't seen the appreciation in Hopewell that we see in other cities. But from just a predictability, like, I know if I buy 1,000 square foot house in Hopewell, I know what it's going to rent for. I know I'm going to be able to keep it rented. It's very easy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's great to hear. So, but I had never, I'm going to stay in touch with you on that because I hadn't really even considered Hopewell as short-term rental. Now our houses are a little bit bigger square footage, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's cool. So now is the kind of the path forward looking for lots to acquire and build on?
Yes, yes.
Yep.
And actually, so the lot behind our new build uh, turned out to be one of my husband's military buddies. So we've been talking to him a little bit about that, and he hasn't been interested. And then finally now he said that, okay, let's do it. You guys have already done all the, the research and the legwork on your side. So yeah, let's do it. So I don't know exactly how we're gonna structure that, if he will sell us the lot or if we, you know, maybe we build that and sell and
Yeah.
split the profit somehow. I'm not
Right.
sure. But either way, I would love to do that because that just, increases the value of that little area. Now I actually do build. So,
Yep.
yeah,
I love
hopefully
it.
that's my next one.
I love that. So, I mean, this is just a great, great story, and you're right in the middle of growing it, like playing out the vision, and but it goes back to, I mean, your whole timeline, this whole story is you taking action, taking big leaps into things, showing up, coming to America, going back and forth, coming back to America, homeschooling your kids, showing up to the ring meeting, taking your husband, y'all getting motivated, and then taking action. I love every bit of that. Um, I want to segue now into, you mentioned earlier you were doing some private lending, from your retirement account.
Yeah.
And I shared with you, that's how we, I mean, obviously we have the big fund now and all that, but it all started with small loans out of our self-directed account. So, talk through whatever you want to share with that, and how you've enjoyed the lending side of the business.
Yeah, so that was also something that, Rich Lennon was talking about during Ring. And he said, if anyone has a 401k just sitting from previous employer, that's something you could roll over. And so immediately I was like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm going to
There,
do that. Yep, I'm doing it. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm doing it.
there you go. This is
So,
another great example,
yeah.
Fluff. Yeah.
So I did. So I was the first one who started out of my husband and I. And I did a couple of deals with Rich, which was great because, again, having someone who can hold your hand and, teach you and make sure everything is done right and all that. So that was awesome. And then my husband did the same thing with his old 401k. Um, and then turned out that he had an inherited 401k or inherited Roth IRA that
Okay.
we didn't even know what the power behind those were until, so like all these things were all of a sudden just showing up, and we just thought it was just fascinating that we could do this thing that we didn't even know about before.
Yep.
And it was also just so much fun because now you can have control over your own retirement savings and, see it grow in a whole different way. I mean, my 401k was just sitting there. It was losing money at that point before I rolled it over. Um, and so we did that. And now that's more something that my husband does. I've kind of focusing more on the rehabbing and now building houses, and he does more of the lending. It kind of just naturally worked out that way.
Mhm.
He really enjoys that, and I mean I do too, but it just kind of worked out that way that it's
Yeah.
his thing. And yeah, we definitely intend to keep doing that, and hopefully we'll be able to do that out of an LLC as well so that we can hack, because obviously you can't touch
Right.
the IRA money yet. So it's not something that we can live off of now. But um, if we
Yeah. So,
doing it on out of an LLC or like with actual money now, that would be great too. Another way to hopefully replace his W-2 income.
yeah, it doesn't, I mean, it's so crazy how, like you mentioned, you find out it's like a new toy, it's like,
Yeah.
I didn't even know this. And we were the same way. Like I mentioned to you earlier, we had been on the borrowing side for years, right? We borrowed hard money and private money for years as we were building our portfolio. And maybe somewhere along the way, I remember thinking like, one day I want to be the one lending the money, right?
Right.
That's where the power is and all that. But I never knew a path to get there until, just like you, somebody mentioned, hey, you got this huge 401k,
Yeah.
start lending out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try that.
Yeah.
And I did it a couple times. My business partner did, and we left our jobs to build a portfolio to
Yeah.
like, 10x what we already had and quickly pivoted. We said, no, we're going to pause that and we're going to try this lending thing. And that just from lending, doing a few loans out of our retirement accounts, started some motivation to let's try to build a business around this. And that's where it led. So,
Yeah.
but the point I'm trying to make is there's so many niches within real estate or any in business in general that you aren't going to be exposed to them unless you get yourself around the people
Yeah.
that are doing these things,
Yeah.
right? And just like you've proven in what you're doing. So
Yeah.
I think that's great. I want to start wrapping things up now, but I want to I like to touch on, you mentioned you have three kids, and out of everything we've talked about, I know that, your family has to be the top priority all the time, right? And there's a lot of things that motivate that, I'm sure. I'm the same way. I I like to think even without the struggles I went through with my dad, I would still be a good dad and a good husband. But certainly that has helped me be motivated to be even better.
Mhm.
I left a very high paying job to go into business full time, not because I wanted to make more money. I was making plenty of money. I wanted to spend more time with my family.
Yeah.
So, and you mentioned earlier that you're happy doing one or two deals at a time so you can spend time with the family.
Yeah.
Talk about how important that is to you.
Yeah, it's everything. And I think this summer, I think I had a little bit of an aha moment or whatever you want to call it, where I realized that, oh my gosh, my oldest daughter is 15. And there was a change that happened this summer where I can see and I can feel how she went from being a child to being, a young adult, even if she's very young, but still there's that big change. And I'm just like realizing how quickly things are going to go from now and that soon they'll be gone. And so I just, oh man, yeah, it makes me sad.
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna be pretty vulnerable here because this is very recent.
Yeah.
Last night, in fact, I my wife and I are sitting in bed, and she's telling me my daughter's getting ready to turn 14, and she starts telling me about this new little boy that my daughter's talking to and stuff like that. And I'm okay with that. I'm fine with it. But as she's telling me, we have pictures of our kids all over our bedroom, and I just lock in on this picture of her like when she was like 3 years old playing in the yard. And I looked at that, and I'm hearing my wife talking about her talking to a boy, and I got very emotional.
Yeah.
Like it's here, and it is not going to be long before she doesn't need mama and daddy anymore. And that I mean, I knew it was coming, but it's here,
But
and it just
sure,
hit
you
me.
know it's
You know,
coming. Everybody says
right?
it's coming, but not until you're there do you understand that, oh no, wait, now no, 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 let's rewind a little bit. I didn't have time to do a couple of things that I wanted to do with her first. So,
Yeah,
yeah, no, it's so I think, and that's also why, we talked about this before we started recording, but that's why I'm so focused on traveling together because I think
yes,
that's, a huge part where we have quality time and we make memories. And so we love traveling as a family, and I want to keep doing that for as long as they want to, and hopefully even after they have, their husbands and wives and kids, we can still continue traveling together. But yeah, I want to spend as much time as possible with them, and I will never let them move across the world. They-
well, I mean, they won't have the same motivations to move that you did. I mean, if they do, it'd be for other reasons. So yeah, it's funny because we built our house that we're in now, and I'll die in, but we built it 10 years ago. And a couple years later, my wife and I were like, all right, it was between building a pool, like an in-ground pool behind the house, or buying a nice boat. And I said, we're building a pool, not because I want a pool right now for the kids. when they move out of here and start having their own kids, I want a place for them to want to come back to. And I hope they don't have their own pool, so they got to come to our house.
Yeah.
So like I didn't build the pool to go swim in the pool. I built it for 20 years from now they can bring the kids back, So yeah, but
Yeah, I keep
anyway.
thinking about that all the time because we want to build another house, another primary house. And in my head, it's always like, okay, but we have to have a section for where when they come back with their kids, the grandkids be like, that's all in my head now. I have to plan for all of that when I design this house.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you mentioned travel, and we'll touch on this real quick, because I do have one more follow-up question to the kids, but we'll get back there. But while I'm thinking about this, travel, you and I talked offline. We're both points people, credit card points people. So you don't have, I know you just recently did a big presentation on this, but from what I understand, you're funding most of your travel through credit, like playing the credit card game and with points. You care to just kind of give me an elevator speech on how you use that and how you go through all that?
Okay, so first of all, my main credit cards are Chase and Amex.
Yep.
That's what I focus on. They're the easiest way to rack up miles and the easiest way to then use those miles to travel. Rakuten is another tool I use because you can go through Rakuten to get multipliers when it comes to earning points, and all those points go back into your Amex account. So, for example, I needed to buy coffee. I buy this coffee brand that I love, and I went on to Rakuten, and right now they were offering 30 times the points if you go through Rakuten. So
it's a points booster type.
points,
Okay.
yeah. So multiplying the points. So yeah, so I use that a lot to earn a lot of points. And then I would never use the cash back for a credit card like they offer. Once you have all these points, you can get cash back. I would never use that. I also don't book travel in the travel portal, in the credit card travel portals using points, because that you only get 1 cent per point. So what I do instead is I have all this behind me here, but there's a transfer matrix that shows you which cards transfer to which airlines and alliances. And then you can use your points to just, for example, I just bought a business class ticket from DC to Madrid next year for 58,000 points.
Okay.
That trip, if I had paid cash, would have cost, $3,000. So then you can see, I mean, if you do the math, you can see how much were my points worth now instead. So instead of 1 cent per point, I might have gotten 7 cents per point. And so I can get way further with using the points with the airlines than if I try to redeem them within the credit card portals. So, so that's what I do. And there's so many ways to be creative and figure out how to use the points the best way and how to earn the points the best way. And I think it's super fun, and it's a way for us to travel. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree. I went through a period, probably a year, where I was obsessed with it. This has been several years ago. So I was probably wasting more time trying to maximize every little point and use of cards and stuff than it was justified or whatever. But now, I mean, one lever I do, and I know I'm gonna go back and watch your presentation because I'm sure you covered this stuff in more detail. But one thing I have not used points very much on is airline. So we use them to book our hotels all the time, and like we'll transfer. Hyatt is our favorite, so we'll go.
The best.
Yeah, we'll transfer it from Chase to Hyatt, and then and I mean, my wife and I went to the Bahamas, stayed at the Baha Mar, and and it, I mean, everything was covered with points. So yeah, it's but the it the credit card companies know that people play this game, but they also know that only about 10% of people actually play it and then pay their cards off. And actually, it's
Right, exactly.
they know the calculations where they're still making money. But if you can be disciplined and use it correctly, it's a power tool when it comes to travel for sure.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah.
yep. All right, cool. The last thing I want to ask you before we wrap up, and this kind of goes back to your kids, and kind of your mindset. So you mentioned right at the start of this podcast, we got deep right out of the gate talking about your father and my father and stuff. But and I mentioned that that's everything I went through with that has been a superpower for me, right? That adversity has kind of led me to do things I may or may not have done the way I've done, but that's always in the back of my mind. I'm gonna be better than that.
Yeah.
So that negative and that adversity in my life taught me how to deal with adversity, and it taught me how to overcome it and push forward and do big things. My kids, as I would imagine your kids, are not facing that same type of adversity, right? My kids, their parents love each other. You know, they see us happy. We have a happy home. It's safety. There's no fear. There's no adversity other than maybe losing a sports game or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the same thing that I can sit here and say built me to who I am, they're not experiencing, nor do I want them to experience. But what's your mindset around raising children? I ask a lot of people this, but raising children and kind of this, they have it a lot better off than maybe we did in our circumstances,
Yeah.
knowing that it might be a little harder when they face real life adversity down the road. Do you think about that at all?
Yeah, we do. We think about that all the time. We talk about
Yeah.
it all the time because, like you said, I mean, yeah, you want to give a better life to your kids than what you had, but is that hurting them? Because
Right.
now all of a sudden they don't get to experience some of those things that might actually, yeah, it's not like you don't want them to, but you also want them to grow from real life experiences. And so I do think that that's tricky. But that's also why I try to be very open with, my experience with my dad and what happened, so that even if they didn't experience, they know that that I did, someone close to them did. They never got to meet their grandpa because he died before they were born. And we talk a lot about that. They ask a lot about that. So I'm hoping that maybe that helps a little bit. And then my oldest, she did a mission trip this summer. She went to outside of Nashville with church for a week, and they were talking to a lot of homeless people. And I mean, she came back from that trip, just she said that was the most amazing thing ever, and she just had a totally different way of thinking of homeless people. Or she didn't even call them, she called them something else. I can't remember now, but yeah. And so I think, like, trying to expose them to some of that is probably good, like some kind of challenges, because if you protect them from everything, yeah, they're never gonna learn, and they're never gonna know how to deal with things later in life when things come up, because things will come up, it happens. So but I do think that's tricky, and we also ask ourselves all the time, like, are they spoiled? We don't want to spoil them. We don't want them to be spoiled, and they get to go on all these trips and stuff because we want to create memories. But yeah,
It was tough. Yeah, it's tough to curate like that perspective for them, right? And that then I think about this more than I think about my business. I think about it more. I mean, it is constantly top of mind because, right, my kids are 15 and 9, or about to be 14 and 9. So we're in the thick of it. Like we have to. I don't know that we'll get it right, but we're always trying to. There's ways to curate adversity without them getting hurt, right? So they need to learn to fail at things, and like, I mean, that could be as simple as like letting my daughter cook dinner, right? And not like resisting that urge to go help her with everything. Just let her spill something, or let her put the wrong ingredient in and screw it up. So then, she can have that feeling of I failed, but it's okay. Like, it's okay to fail. Sports has been a big thing for us, just letting them learn how to be good teammates, good leaders. And then you nailed it with the like exposure to less fortunate situations and people, whether that be letting them experience it physically themselves and go see these, types of situations, or just sharing, like, we donated to a friend of mine, took a bunch of like school supplies and sports supplies over to Africa this summer. And So instead of just telling my daughter about it and us just giving money, they had like an Amazon wish list. And I said, all right, here's $200. You go and pick things on this list, and then we're going to follow this journey. I want you to see them, the videos of them delivering it to the kids and stuff. So I think you nailed that. And outside of that, I don't know what else to do. Like I can't, I'm not going to go get addicted to drugs. So they deal with that. That'll burn me, that's out of I mean, I guess I could, but I don't plan on it. So, but no, Sandra, it's been absolutely wonderful getting to know you better. And I know that, our paths will continue to cross. I'm going to be following your journey moving forward. I appreciate you coming on here. And, I didn't know what we were getting into today. And you've got a fantastic story with a lot of lessons in it. And I think a lot of people will get inspiration from this to carry it forward with their own journey. So I thank you for that.
Thank you so much. It was really, really fun, and I can't wait to get to know you even more.
Yep, sounds good. Well, thank you very much, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Burning the Ships podcast. As always, want to thank our sponsor, 608B Capital. We are a short-term lending fund, a debt fund, open for investors who are looking for a passive return. And also we offer products our main product to fix and flippers and buy and holders, folks that are doing things like that in real estate. Also want to remind you about our referral program. Check out our website for more information on that, and we're happy to talk to you further if you're interested. Again, thank you for joining us on Burning the Ships, and do me a favor and go out and try to find someone or some way that you can add value into the world today. Think through it, zoom out, and try to find where you can add value. I think it'll help wrap up your day, wrap up your week, whatever you're working on a positive note if you constantly think that way. Where can I add value? So with that, we thank you for joining us on another episode of Burning the Ships. Have a good one.